to another episode of Piecing It Together, the podcast where we take a look at a new movie and try to figure out what movies inspired it. And today on the show, we are doing a super episode on Friendship, the new Tim Robinson movie, which I just still can't even believe this is a movie I got to see in a movie theater twice, by the way. It is so ridiculous, and I had so much fun with it. And I had a lot of people who wanted to be on this episode. But what we ended up doing is we're doing a super episode, and I have got joining me Marco Arriaga, Dayvid Figler, Amanda Guarragi, Jason Harris, and David Quinones. We honestly could have doubled this up. We could have talked about this for a whole nother hour, but everybody's got a different opinion of the just weird surrealist nature of these kinds of comedies, and it's crazy. But we got into a lot of really fun stuff in this episode, and that is coming up here in a second. Before we get to it, as always, make sure you are subscribed to Piecing It Together, because we've got lots of podcasts on the way. And with that said, let's talk about Friendship. All right, Marco Arriaga's with us. First time not on a live show, but on one of these regular Piecing It Togethers. How's it going, Marco?
Good. How you doing?
I am great. I am so excited to talk about this movie, man. It's so ridiculous. Oh my God. I don't even know where to start with this. I mean, where were you at going into this? Because I know you had hit me up, like, if I end up doing a live show, please have me on.
I was foaming at the bits for this. Yeah. Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
So
yes.
Were you a big I Think You Should Leave fan? Is that where you kind of came in?
Yeah, exactly. As much as I love Tim Robinson as an actor, but like that show itself was like just so creative, so funny, and like every bit of like comedy style I could think of, and they weren't afraid to like do anything, be a little like nonsensical, but it was probably one of my favorite shows. And I think like a lot of people took like so much verbiage and quotes from that, you know? Like our modern day like Chappelle show,
Sure. Yeah, no.
So I was hyped, and I love Paul Rudd. So
yeah, I know, and it's something I keep talking about, like leading up to this movie even coming out, and then thankfully, like, it is the case. But like, we haven't had Paul Rudd in something funny in forever, and I love him. He's one of the funniest people ever, and to bring him into the fold here with Tim Robinson is just, I'm just so happy that this is a movie. It doesn't seem like a movie that would exist, but it actually is one, and we got to actually see it in a theater, which makes it even better. But I'm excited to get into it. But let's start getting into some puzzle pieces. What do you got? What did you think of for this one?
Off the top, I think one of my favorite scenes from the movie, it's like a transition cut. They do like the little circle O transition.
Oh, on his face, right?
Yeah. So like, to me, that was one of the funniest things in editing and stuff like that. The fact that they were able to like incorporate this silly little transition, it very much reminded me of Looney Tunes. That's all, folks. But I think even to like go on that even more, the more I think about like Looney Tunes was like the silly comedy, the sort of like that Wile E. Coyote, slapstick comedy, Wile E. Coyote running off like the side of the mountain, drawing the little like sigh sign and then falling. How much of the movie can we talk about?
No, you could get into it as much as you want. We'll expect that people have seen it as they go into this.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
So there's the scene in the trailer where he runs into the door, right?
Yeah.
But in the actual movie, it's like the scene like doubles down on itself, because like he runs into it, nothing happens, it breaks, and then they're like, and it's like, oh, that like awkwardness that you feel in the trailer is something different, and it just very much Wile E. Coyote, Roadrunner. But to even like talk about more of like Looney Tunes, the whole friendship is like Tim Robinson's character wants to be the companion to Bugs Bunny, but he's the Elmer Fudd to Bugs Bunny, you know what I'm saying? Like, just in all the worst ways.
I love that. I love that. I love
Yeah.
also that other scene that was also in a lot of the marketing and all that, where he's just talking and then all of a sudden he's sinking into the mud. Like
Oh yeah.
that's another one that I think fits in with the whole Looney Tunes thing. And it's so funny. Like this year has been a little bit rough for me personally, movie wise. Like I
Uh-huh.
haven't really loved a lot of movies, but the movies I've
Yeah, yeah.
loved have
True.
been this and the Looney Tunes, The Day the Earth Blew Up, which I guess
Yeah.
I'm just really in the mood for just some like wacky nonsense comedy that like goes full on slapstick and just is not even trying to be serious
Yeah.
whatsoever, you know?
Or like it just is like letting these sort of ridiculous like caricatures of like human beings
Yeah.
just sort of exist in that world. Like there's a way that Tim Robinson was talking about like a sketch that they wrote for I Think You Should Leave, and it was very much like oh, it's like this character is like in this wacky situation, and then that's where we'll pick up, and it's like damn, they were really just like we'll throw anything at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I really love that style of comedy. Like I think like as a comedian, like it's so refreshing to see different styles of comedy coming through right now, and
Sure.
I love
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. And yeah, I remember there was a moment in like the 2000s where a lot of like the Judd Apatow comedies and stuff like that, there would
Hmm.
be like 4-hour DVD
Hmm.
unrated cut or whatever and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I feel like they must have done so much other shit while making this movie because I mean,
Yes.
you can't write this exactly as it plays out on the screen. It
Yeah.
has
Yeah.
to come out during the like during the performance and during like actually
Exactly.
coming together in the editing room as well. But what do you got for another piece?
To even talk about some of like the earlier comedy, uh, like of the early 2000s, I thought of 21 Jump Street, 21 Jump Street, 21 2 Jump Street.
Sure.
Specifically, there's so many great like drug trip scenes in movies, you know?
Yeah.
And to me, that first 21 Jump Street where Channing Tatum does like the drugs, I thought that was like the first time I ever saw Channing Tatum just be like the silliest guy ever. You know,
Sure.
we've seen Jonah Hill be that guy, but seeing Channing Tatum in that role and they're just kind of being like off the wall zany, it was so awesome. And even in the second one, they go of this like into this like have you seen the second?
Not since the theater, but I
Okay, yeah,
remember
yeah,
it
yeah.
being pretty good
So
though.
so like the acid trip in that scene is like they're doing like ones in like this like oh my gosh I'm in this like happy little like land and these drugs are
Right.
great and the other one's like oh I'm sad
Yeah. Yeah,
and
that's right.
and to me like this scene like the drug trip scene in this movie where he like is in a subway and then like he's just ordering like a crazy sandwich just the garlic the black forest ham on the garlic herb
Just
and then
with nothing special about any of the
yeah
toppings, just as plain as can
just
be.
yeah, so and then he like comes out of it and he's like, "Oh, what'd you see?" He's like, "I was in Subway," and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is like this is real. Am I on drugs right now? Is
Yeah, they
this my
flipped it on
acid
you.
trip?" Yeah. So like in that same way, 21 Jump Street, 22 Jump Street kind of did that. I was just trying to think of a more modern take.
Yeah.
But also like that scene is like I like psychedelics myself.
Mhm.
So the concept of just being like, oh man, I was just at Coffee Bean ordering my latte and like I was just waiting there forever and the acid trip ended and it was just like I wasn't in Coffee Bean. Like that would suck so bad. That would they're like $100 a pop and you got the Coffee Bean,
Yeah.
acid trip. Come on, dude. Come on.
That scene
So
is so freaking funny.
it,
And
it's
yeah, I feel
brilliant.
like
It's brilliant.
like to the 21 Jump Street, 22 Jump Street, like yeah, like we've seen so many drug trip out scenes and they
Hmm.
were just like
Hmm.
we have to go as far the opposite direction as
Yeah,
possible
yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly,
and just
exactly.
what else could we come up with? And they came up with the most mundane thing. But like you said, actually, like coming from the point of view, I don't do any of those psychedelics just because I
Mm.
know I would freaking lose my mind.
Yeah, yeah.
But like the idea of spending the money on it and building your day around it, and then
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like, "I
yeah.
went to Subway?" Like That would
Yeah,
just be a nightmare. I don't know.
$100 for one lick.
Oh,
It's not even like you took the frog home, maybe for $100, but for one lick is crazy.
amazing.
Crazy.
Great stuff. And any others you want to bring up here?
My last little one, or well, I have one quick one, and then one just. I know you're a big movie guy, so I wanted to throw this at you.
Mm-hmm.
My last little bit was Gone Girl.
Okay, interesting.
Once like they get lost in the sewers, he like shows up back at the house just like by himself, and you're kind of like, oh, that's like what happened there. And then the cops show up, and then they're like, oh, you broke in. Oh no, I was with my wife. How could I? It's like, well, where's your wife? And then that's now become like the plot of what's going on. Like,
Yeah.
oh, now his wife is like stuck in the sewers, and then she comes back, and there's like a tone change,
Yeah.
especially like within their relationship. Like, yo, you kind of left me out there, and like now she's on like the TV with him, and it's like this weird like, oh, you're like with the enemy now, So there's just some weird tension where I was just like, this feels like some weird like what happens in Gone Girl at once the 30 minute like after that.
Yeah,
30
sure.
minutes later, this is what's happening.
It gets really weird, and like there's a moment in the tunnel when she first goes missing, when she's just staring at him and then just kind of walks into the darkness.
Yeah.
Kate Mara's doing some creepy shit there.
Yeah.
Like it's a very interesting choice as an actor.
Yeah.
I was like, is this gonna go really dark, or like what exactly is gonna happen here? It's like you cannot tell what's going on behind those eyes, and it's all the better for it. So weird.
Yeah, it was like I said, like there's just different aspects of that movie where it's like, oh, it's kind of about this. Then it's like, it's not about that. It's actually about this.
Sure.
And it's like, no, it's about this thing. And we're just kind of like following the like ebbs and flow of this like weird dynamic between like these like two kind of couples. And
yeah,
man,
good stuff.
Wild.
Good stuff.
Okay, so my last little one is the movie Control about Joy Division.
Okay.
Ian Curtis. I've been on like a huge Joy Division kick. I saw them over the weekend, or saw Peter Hook do like a best of Joy Division set. And one thing that got me, or something that the band talks about after Joy Division, is like the sort of like not knowing that Ian was like depressed, and all his lyrics were very like talking about his condition, his behavior, everything like that. And I think the fact that the band is like how we don't care about the music, but it was like our friend, and they're an iconic band, but I think what made them so iconic was that they were like best friends. They like grew up together. Some learned how to play instruments together. Like they were just mean punks that like to play pranks on each other and other people. And like, that's friendship,
Sure.
like,
Yeah.
especially like as sort of like melancholy as Joy Division can be, like they were still great friends, and this thing sort of united them. And even like in those darkest times, like that kind of brought them together.
Yeah.
And I thought like, oh man, this band that I always thought was like so sad and so tragic is like kind of has this light at the end of the tunnel.
Right.
And I thought like, oh, that's sort of friendship. But I wanted to share that. I know you like music too, so I was like,
hell yeah.
A chance to talk about a movie and Joy Division all in one go.
Hell yeah.
Come on.
Why not? Let's get it in there.
Yeah.
And I think for a movie like Friendship, which I mean ultimately is about like male friendship and just the positives and the negatives of that, especially when a wild card like Tim Robinson is brought into the mix. But like you could see that the other Paul Rudd's original friend group, I mean, they have a really good thing going, and this guy is just he's poison to that.
You're
really
messing with the whole vibe here, man.
This poor guy, like, I mean, he sucks so bad, but at the same time, you're just kind of like, oh, God damn it, man.
We have to give him a shot.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think we got into some really interesting stuff here.
Yes.
Marco, thank you so much for doing it. Where can people find you and everything you're up to?
Social media at Yummus_hummus. That's YUMMUS_hummus. Hummus, more like Yummus. But no, I'm doing that. I'm writing a play for the Las Vegas Art Council right now. So keep your fingers and toes crossed for me
Hell yeah.
that we can make something very beautiful.
Beautiful. That sounds great to me. Well, Marco, thanks so much for doing the show again,
Thank
and we'll
you,
get you
thank
on
you,
another
thank you, thank
live
you,
one
thank you.
sometime for
Yes,
sure.
yes, please, please. You know, I was riding for this one, so thank you for having me. And thank you
Absolutely.
again, Mike. Truthfully, I love being a part of the show, and talking about movies is honestly some of my favorite things to do. So thank you, David. Appreciate you.
Dayvid Figler is with us. How's it going, David?
Hey, David, great.
I am so excited to talk about this movie with you. So, a little inside baseball for everyone listening. These recordings will be a little out of order from what I recorded them in, but you're the last person I'm talking to about friendship. But you were the first person a couple of months ago who was like, if you do a show on this movie, I have to be on this episode. And
Yeah.
I wanted to do a live one so bad. It just didn't work out timing wise, unfortunately. But before we start getting into puzzle pieces, I'm assuming you're a big Tim Robinson fan. Is that why you were super psyched for this?
Actually, when it happened, I was in I will say a Tim Robinson K-hole.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, like a lot of people first introduced to him with, sporadic appearances on Saturday Night Live, just thinking, oh,
Mhm.
that was an interesting bit player, whatever. And he kind of disappeared. And then, the little video clip started showing up in every reels, whether it's
Sure.
Instagram or otherwise. And it's just like, this guy is weird. And am interested in learning more about this fellow. So I
Yeah,
did go down and I watched all of, You Should Leave and Detroiters and went back through all the old Saturday Night Live sketches, and I was just like so hot on Tim Robinson for a second. Just wherever he would show up, chaos and hilarity follows. And so when I saw the trailer, I was like, I want to. So I reached out to you.
yeah, absolutely.
I have since cooled a little bit on Tim Robinson since then, and then
Yeah,
after watching the movie, which I can't decide if I absolutely love or despise.
sure.
And I think that is the intended reaction to this movie.
Yeah, that's by design 100%.
Oh,
So,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And then the controversial ending. Was it or wasn't it a fever dream?
Yeah, well, we will never know. That can apply to literally every little short segment or anything that he has ever done, but,
Yeah, that's about right.
yeah, so getting into this movie, I mean, as far as, I feel a lot of the puzzle pieces we've talked about so far with some of the other guests, we'll see what you have to say, but I
I
mean
wanna try to guess some first, and then I'm
sure.
hoping that I come up with some new ones.
Interesting. Well, you know what? Guess away. What do you think people might have brought up at this
I
point?
think a lot of people have gravitated towards "I Love You, Man." I
I
think that has to be, like, everyone's primo puzzle piece here.
I Love You Man is definitely one that I think, going into this movie, just based off the trailer, it was
Mhm.
like that, and hopefully I'm not stepping on yours because nobody has brought this one up yet, so I'm just gonna bring it up during my conversation with you, but the cable guy is
Yeah, yeah, it was
y
on my list. Cable
okay,
Guy's
so
on
I'm
my
stealing
list.
one immediately. Well, I'm glad we're talking about it because literally no one else brought it up, and I'm like, "What is wrong with these people? I wanna be friends with Dayvid Figler, not these other people."
Yeah,
But
don't they know about,
yeah, I mean,
obsessive weirdness
come
in a
on.
dark comedy?
Come on.
Come on.
Why would what tell us some more about why you were bringing up, the cable guy, although I think right off the bat, you got it right there,
Yeah,
so
I mean, that's kinda it. I'm
yeah.
more interested in yours and bringing out some of my, like, hopefully more obscure ones. I don't even know, but, like, just that set the whole set of a universe in which 2, very different gentlemen, find themselves interacting, in cohesion for a moment, but clearly there is one party who is far more obsessed with the other, right? I mean,
Sure. Yeah.
that's your cable guy, although Jim Carrey, takes his vengeance a little far, and I don't know which one's Jim Carrey and which one's,
That's a
Tim
really interesting
Robinson
thing here, yeah, because
versus
it could go either way, and that's part of the surrealist, weird nature of this movie that, like, it's really kinda hard to tell, like, who is treating the other one I mean,
well,
T Tim
that's Tim
Robinson's insane.
Robinson,
He's completely insane, so
Yeah, I mean, I wonder what this film would have looked like if it was completely written by Tim Robinson, as opposed to my guess is that
mm,
he just threw in things, as did probably Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
But it's someone else's screenplay that they were kind of someone else's sandbox that they were playing in. But yeah, as far as just the venomous dark vengeance thread of the obsessive behavior, there were pieces of that in this, and so that's why Cable Guy was definitely on the list.
100%. Well, what are some of the other ones you were expecting others to have possibly brought up?
Well, I don't think that you can discount, the sketch series. I
Mhm.
think you should leave, this in a lot of ways did seem to be almost every single one of Tim Robinson's characters wrapped into one.
Mm.
It's like, it Megatroned it or whatever, with all the little they all combined to
Yeah.
make, planet Earth or, whatever, that guy was. Oh my god, I'm mixing up all my guys.
There's
But yeah,
lots of those
yeah,
things
yeah,
out
yeah, yeah,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
But, like, bottom line, it was, like, a little bit of everything, and I think, there were a lot of parallels with Detroiters.
Mhm. That too,
Uh,
yeah.
while he wasn't per se in an ad agency, he was definitely having that same kind of fun, with, his social satire through, the campaigns that they were working on in his industry to get people addicted to phone apps, which is just so fantastic.
Do you have conversations over at CityCast about how to get people addicted to the show?
I think it's just with high quality. I
Yeah,
think that's
sure.
what we do over at CityCast Las Vegas.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, that's kind of the obvious ones. And I think also I'll throw in, just because this is a shorty episode, and I might as well just spill it all out. Paul Rudd's character was straight from the cutting table of Anchorman.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
He definitely pulled a variation of his character from Anchorman, and you know being the weatherman, I guess maybe he pulled a little Steve Carell out too, but, like, it was definitely a character that was, an anachronism, seemed
Mhm.
very, very, you know, uh, 80s in a modern setting for
Yeah.
whatever reason. So,
And it's super, super easy to imagine wanting to be friends with that because he's so much fun. He's Paul Rudd. Who doesn't wanna be friends with Paul Rudd?
yeah,
And he's just so just out there and interesting, and you see it in Tim Robinson's weird, deranged eyes, but then at the same time, you feel like if you were there, you would, in a more normal way, also
yeah.
really wanna be friends with this guy.
Well, I mean, that was the whole thing, charisma, and instead of, pulling out of the, package the ancient tool used by, First Man,
Yeah.
it could have easily been a box with the Panther cologne,
Oh,
you know?
sure. Yeah, yeah.
It was very, very similar, I think that it was very informed, if we're talking pieces, by his experience, making characters on Anchorman, or being with the others making characters on Anchorman.
Yeah, all that kind of, because he had such a run at that moment. It wasn't just Anchorman, it was like that run of all the Judd Apatow stuff, but especially Anchorman because of the news, obviously, but that his characters were always just so much fun, and
Well,
you
just
just
the
wanna spend time with
swarthiness
them.
of it,
Yeah,
there
that
was
too.
something very swarthy.
Yeah, that too, for sure.
So my other puzzle pieces that I have here, I'm gonna throw out the 1981 original, black comedy Neighbors,
Ooh, I don't
with
know this
John
movie.
Belushi and Dan Aykroyd. It was later rebooted with Seth Rogen and Zac Efron,
Uh-huh.
a very different version of it. This was based, on the original novel of just, like, brand new neighbors who kinda move in. They're weird, they're freaky, they inject themselves into, the straight-laced neighbor's life. Um, the parallel to me, or the piece to me, is that one person is kind of out of it, but, like, it's a surreal universe where, uh, John Belushi doesn't match with his wife. He's just so nebbishy and weird, and you
Mm.
don't know why he's even in that relationship. And the same thing, they're a very cool kid, and they have been married for like 16 years, and he's clearly clueless. And then one day he meets the neighbor, and like the entire world sort of changes.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that piece is there, but it gets very dark, and the John Belushi character gets very paranoid, and Dan Aykroyd is being 1981 Dan Aykroyd,
Sure.
with the
Yeah.
bleach blonde hair, and his wife is played by Kathy Moriarty, and it's a weird, dark romp, that could have in modern day would have been much, much weirder, and Tim Robinson in either role,
Yeah.
but probably the John Belushi role, would have taken it to that next weird friggin' level. But yeah, yeah, definitely worth checking out as sort of a time capsule, especially if you sort of enjoy the transition of people doing Saturday Night Live into mainstream film. So
Yeah,
there's that parallel too.
it's so interesting. Those guys, like all those Saturday Night Live guys, I mean, there's the movies that we all know and love from them, but there's so many other ones that like I either saw and just forgot about or I
Yeah.
had never even heard of. And I don't think I even realized that they had made a Neighbors movie back then. And
Yeah, yeah. It was
yeah.
actually, I think it timing wise, it might have been the last one that John Belushi filmed
Oh,
before he
wow.
passed.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just essentially it's kind of a quick cycle between two people who live in the same neighborhood,
Yeah.
actually next door neighbors. But I did feel like when I was watching that, between the darkness, the weird comedy, the surreal universe that they're creating, the rules that they're living by, and some outrageous stuff that was happening within that universe, that Neighbors was definitely something that informed it.
Love it. I got to check that out.
Oh, good. Like I pulled out an obscure one.
I
I have to be the only one who mentioned Neighbors.
Yeah, that's the first I've heard of it, so I'm glad. So you got one other one you wanna bring up?
Oh, I was gonna say that the weird piece here, was I kept thinking the whole time that I'm watching the movie is this would have been so much more interesting to me in Kyle Mooney's hands.
Mm,
And I feel like Kyle creates the sort of, he postdates Tim Robinson on Saturday Night Live, but predates him with, a lot of the film work and stuff. And the way that he sort of gets into these sort of satirical spaces with things that he loves, and the way he kind of twists those characters, and especially the Kyle lead characters. I'm thinking of what was the
is
Brigsby Bear?
Brigsby Bear, yeah, yeah.
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 Yeah, and just, how he operates as the individual who kind of is dancing to his own drum,
Mhm.
throughout, which is really sort of the Tim Robinson shtick as well. And
Sure.
Kyle can go very weird and very dark. It's just a little more subtle than Tim Robinson has the capacity to do.
Yeah.
But I was thinking that there was a lot of Kyle in this, despite the complete and utter absence of Kyle from this film. And so I feel like it's a fair cop for a piece, that there's a little bit of, the surreal Kyle aesthetic of the 2020s, kind of gives permission for them to be so friggin' weird,
Right, right, right.
in what they do with the movie and where they take the movie. Because certainly the progression, um, isn't whole like the unexpected progression of something like his Saturday morning cartoon, series, or Saturday morning, like, children's lineup that Kyle did on Netflix a couple years back, which is absolutely worth the ride, because from when you start it to when you finish it, you've gone in a very, very different direction, and I feel like that also occurred here, and, Kyle sort of, walked so Tim Robinson could trip.
I'm gonna have to watch that. So I've seen Brigsby Bear, and I love Brigsby Bear, and
Yeah,
definitely he's got a great offbeat sense of humor. I did not like his follow-up Y2K.
I didn't like Y2K either. I felt it
Yeah,
it it gave in. It tried too hard to be something that it wasn't.
yeah. So
And I felt it had been done better in other hands.
totally, totally. And so I'm gonna have to watch that Saturday Morning All Stars. That
Oh,
that
oh my
sounds like a
god.
lot of fun.
I
Yeah.
don't throw brilliant around much, but,
Mm,
when he creates sort of this perfect universe, it has the most subtle satire throughout, when the satire doesn't, like, hit you right on the nose, like,
yeah.
maybe a little bit more RoboCop-y,
Yeah.
than something else that they might like Mountain Head, which I recently watched and hated,
Mm,
because I just thought, oh, so obvious, so on the nose what they're doing
right.
here with their
Right.
satire. But, a lot more subversive, and I think that you can call, um, Friendship a subversive film for
Oh,
sure.
100%. Yeah.
But it is really subversive, and, it's directed at the vehicle that Kyle used was basically the old school 1990s Saturday morning lineup with, the main characters that he played were twins who, like, pumped up the shows and introduced the cartoons and stuff, and it just
Nice.
gets fucking dark.
I
Oh,
love it.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to mess up your rating on Apple Podcasts.
Oh,
Gets stupid dark.
I said it and forget it 8 years ago just in case. So, it's all
Fair,
good. Yeah.
fair.
So
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, little Kyle's my last piece on that.
beautiful. Great stuff. Yeah, I think we got into some really great stuff here, David. Tell people where they can find CityCast Las Vegas, and you've been doing live shows lately, right?
Yeah, we've taken your lead, my friend.
Yeah.
The key is finding good sponsors. But
Yeah.
yeah, we've gone out into the wild. So people can go to the landing page, which is lasvegas.citycast.fm. We do a daily podcast all about Las Vegas. It's a new one every day. We're over 750 episodes in. So God bless. And we did need to mix it up a little bit. So yeah, we did a show that actually aired today. That was taped at the Uncommons, right by the ice cream place there, Salt and Straw. And then we've got one coming out later this month that was taped at the Rita, Dean, and Abbey Art Museum, which was this gorgeous space up in the northwest part of town. And that was a sold out show, which is kind of nice to see that those audiences are growing. And we've got some real
Nice.
cool surprises planned for the future. So yeah, that's the best place. But of course, anywhere where you're listening to this podcast, you can also type in CityCast Las Vegas and find us as well. And you've been on our show, so I appreciate the crossover.
Absolutely. Anytime we can cross over, I'm always happy to do that. So, again, thank you so much for being here, David, and I'm hopeful we'll get you back again sometime.
Yeah, if I ever get over the ending to that movie. So we'll see how a friendship impacts and affects my ability to be on podcasts in the future. So
It's
thank
hard
you,
to
dude,
look
for
at
having
people
me.
in the face at this point. Like,
Yeah,
how do
right?
you even like be friends with people? But yeah,
It's gonna be tough. But no,
Yeah.
thanks for having me on, man. I really enjoyed it.
All right, Amanda Guarragi is back with us. How's it going, Amanda?
Good. I'm good to be back. It's been a while, I think.
Yeah, actually, the last time you were on was also a super episode. It was Dune Part 2, and we're getting a little stupider today, I feel like.
Just a bit.
Yeah.
Not as like masterpiece.
Yeah. This is a masterpiece in its own right, but maybe, it depends who you ask. So,
Yeah, fair.
what I wanted to get you on, well, first of all, I was looking at, all my mutuals to see who actually liked this movie, because it's certainly a love or hate kind of a thing. I feel like a lot of people are just not on the wavelength. But also, as I was going down my list of all my mutuals, I noticed I didn't have a lot of women who liked this movie. And so I was happy to get you on this one.
It's kind of crazy because I also looked through it because I was on Rachel's podcast, Rachel Reviews.
Sure.
And she did not like this whatsoever. We had a whole argument about it. But I had watched this at TIFF. It was Midnight Madness at TIFF. And if anyone who's listening hasn't been to TIFF at all, Midnight Madness is a real treat. So I highly recommend trying to get a screening for Midnight Madness. Paul Rudd was at my screening.
Oh, nice.
Which was really awesome. But I was laughing. I was having a riot. Like, it was just really funny. And I tried to watch Tim Robinson's show. I always butcher the name of it. But
I Think You Should Leave.
That one, I Think You Should Leave. Yeah. And I can't get through certain episodes. So it was very interesting how, like, the show I can't really get into. Sometimes I laugh. But then with Friendship, maybe because it's like just a better like linear narrative about two guys trying to be best friends and him pushing it, it's like totally different. And I was cackling. So I don't know what happened there.
I think it is. It's a very similar sense of humor, but then it also needs to be kind of calibrated to be a movie. And I think Andrew DeYoung did a good job of taking what is essentially just pure absurdism on the show, and it still is absurdism, but with a little bit of a through line and just enough to kind of maybe rope some people in. Although, again, this is going to be a very love it or hate it, no matter who you are, no matter, what you go in expecting. But I'm excited to talk about it. What do you have for some puzzle pieces? What's your first one?
So my first one, it's actually funny that the same actor is in both of my choices today. But the first one that I thought of was like Dinner for Schmucks.
Okay.
And it's just, I think it's the level of humor. Like, it has to be really different. And obviously comedy is personal. So not everyone is going to like objectively love or hate anything. But I do think, like, just because like Paul Rudd's in it as well, and he had to play off of someone like Steve Carell in Dinner for Schmucks, is kind of like the same tandem in that way. And just line delivery, some of the running gags, it's very different humor. And if if it lands, it lands, thankfully. But that's one of the things, one of the films that it reminded me of.
Yeah, I think that's a really good one. And like, it's people just at their worst, in both
Yeah.
both movies. And like, that can be a big ask. And it kind of goes back to the idea that some people just are not, connecting with this movie, which
Mhm.
again is not to be, it's not a surprising thing because it is so weird and out there. But even if it was more broad and more just mainstream comedy, I mean, spending 90 minutes with people that are assholes or
I
just
know.
like complete idiots, that can be a tough ask no matter what kind of a movie it is.
It's true, and I think, like, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia really
Mm,
just helped us all
yeah.
embrace, like, how horrible people can be, after 15 seasons, so
Oh my
I
god,
think,
yeah.
I think it was pretty good for them, but I totally agree, it is a big ask, and, like, some people don't really like dub humor,
Mhm.
and that's why, like, it has to be crafted well, and then you just have to get the right actor to be able to deliver it that way, like Tim Robinson as well, because there's some things that he pulls off in Friendship that I don't think any other actor would have pulled off. So I think that's what's so unique about him as an actor, as a comedic actor.
Yeah, yeah, it's a very, very specific thing, and, the
Mhm,
movie just is like it's like a perfect vehicle for that, and, like, speaking of
mhm.
Dinner for Schmucks, we have, Zach Galifianakis in that, and, like, he's
Yeah.
another comedic person who, when he's in a movie, the movie it's usually Zach Galifianakis, like, that's, like, what the role calls for is, like, we need to get Zach Galifianakis to be Zach Galifianakis, and I think Tim
Yeah.
Robinson is kind of one of those, and sometimes that could come off as typecasting or, that person just doesn't have range or whatever, but also sometimes it's just what we want to see out of them. And Tim
Yeah.
Robinson, I don't want to see Tim Robinson in a more normal comedy. I want to see him be absurdist and weird and completely
Yeah.
insane. So, yeah.
Totally.
What do you got next?
Another Paul Rudd. Can you tell that I love him? I
He's the
think like
best.
he's one of my favorite guys ever. It's I Love You Man.
Mhm.
And I think just because you don't get that level of male friendships on screen, I think, and it handled it in this way where like Tim Robinson really just wants to have a best friend and he goes above and beyond. It's the first thing that I thought of was like, oh, Paul's in like another one of these, but on the opposite, you know what I mean? Like the opposite way here. So it was just really interesting to see male friendships in this way and how they both navigated that. But also like Paul kind of playing it off of like, why are you the way you are? Like, I didn't think we were that close to begin with. So it's just an interesting
Yeah.
dynamic in friendship. And kind of like, what do you do? Like, literally, what do you do if someone's that obsessed with you and constantly like bothering you? So I think that it works in tandem pretty well.
Totally, and the funny thing too is, like, and too, I Love You Man is definitely one that I was thinking of as well, and for both
Mhm.
movies, like, it is ostensibly about male friendship because men, were basically idiots most of the time with each other as friends, but, like, it could go
Yeah.
for anybody. Like, it's so awkward to just put yourself out there, and, of course, in
It
the case of
is.
Tim Robinson, he's just he shouldn't be out there. Like, he should be locked away in his house at 8 PM, like his wife says every day, but
It's true.
he really doesn't belong, but, it's awkward for any person to try to put themselves out there and try to make a new friend or be friends, especially as you get older. It's, like, just impossible to
Yeah.
make friends, and, like,
It's so true.
yeah, and so I think both these movies really, tap into that really, really well and, into that just awkwardness and weirdness of just trying to put yourself out there in that way. But yeah, yeah, great stuff. Any closing thoughts? Anything else you wanted to talk about that you didn't get to here?
I feel bad for Kate Mara. Uh
Sure, yeah.
the whole sewer scene was just like the funniest piece. It was the funniest sequence in the entire film. So shout out to her for even going through all of that with them.
Oh, yeah.
But I do think it's like an underrated comedy. We don't get many of these.
Sure.
So like just even to go support studio comedic films, obviously it's from A24, like just go out and watch Friendship, no matter like if you don't laugh the entire time or you really don't like it, I think just supporting them in theaters is really important here.
Yeah, we really only get, like, 1 or 2, like, big theatrically released comedies a year, it feels like lately,
Yeah.
but, for a while, it was none, though, And so it's really good that like the last couple of years we've kind of had one or two here and there. And so I hope that this is like a bit of a resurgence of those kind of things. And yeah, Kate Mara is so good. Like some of her reactions and her relationship with her son, and like there's just so much weird
It's
shit.
so fun.
Oh my
It's
God.
so fun though. Like just the deadpan half the time.
Yeah.
I think that's what got me the most, is the deadpan for majority of the characters.
Fantastic. Amazing stuff. Well, Amanda, this is great. Tell people where they can find you and everything you're up to.
Yeah, you guys can always follow me over at AMX Indie Reviews on Twitter and Blue Sky. And then you can follow me over at Amanda Guarragi on Instagram. And you can check out my website, candidxcinema.com. I have my Mission Impossible review up right now. I had some thoughts about it. Kind of disappointed about
Me
it.
too.
But I still... See? Okay, we're on... Thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God. But, you know, we love the franchise so much that, like, you can be graceful about it and criticize it, but at the same time, it's a massive disappointment for diehards.
I completely agree. Yeah, for everybody listening, Amanda, if you didn't know, was my guest on the Dead Reckoning episode, and so it's nice to get a chance to speak to her for a second here about this. But yeah, I mean, there's no such thing as a bad Mission Impossible movie as far as I'm concerned. But yes, big disappointment to go out on this. So
for sure.
Yeah. Well, with that said, thank you so much for being here, and hopefully we'll get you back again sometime.
Oh, definitely. Love to come back for sure.
All right, now my friend Jason Harris is here. How's it going, friend Jason Harris?
Oh, Dave, what's more friendly than friendship and friends talking about friendship?
I like friendship.
I like friendship, but, you know, some friends suck.
Yeah, no, that is absolutely true.
The film Friendship, I was highly looking forward to. I love I Think You Should Leave. I love comedy. You know, we covered Hot Rod on Awesome Movie Year, which is a different tone, but I like when they take jokes in totally different directions and just kind of keep you on your toes and alienate half the audience.
Yes, where you have absolutely no idea what the hell is going to happen. I actually saw this movie a second time, and at my first screening, everybody was into it. Lots of laughter, and it was like a blast. And I had a blast the second time too by myself. But the second time, there were 5 people in the theater, and not a peep out of anybody, just silence.
Definitely, when I saw it with some friends, and we all laughed a lot. But you could tell there were people who were like, "What are we doing? What is this movie?" But that's what I want from it. It's a studio movie taking chances on comedy. Thank goodness, and it's making money, so that's exciting. You know,
absolutely.
Yeah, it was fun.
Let's go to some pieces. What do you got?
So the first one I thought of while watching this, which is not a comedy at all, but involves a person getting too obsessed with someone else in their community, was 1 Hour Photo, Robin Williams, where he's developing pictures and becomes obsessed with that family. And you kind of see that here with Tim Robinson, how he really wants to be all in with Paul Rudd and everything that Paul Rudd and his friends are doing, even if he's a bad little boy.
He sure is. I think I hadn't thought of that one at all. And I think that's such a good one because like this guy, he's clearly somebody who, even though in his own way he means well, he kind of doesn't deserve to have friends. Like he doesn't fit in at all. And every relationship he ever had probably and ever will have, it's gonna go bad no matter what. Just like how you could kind of imagine Robin Williams' character in 1 Hour Photo most likely was.
Well, the other thing is he doesn't know, as we learned from the ending, what the real priorities are. And that's why I really like that ending, is like he had a chance to get it all back without ruining anything. Whether he had a chance and he makes different choices and he does what he thinks is important, which is clearly not important.
Yeah, not good. What else do you got?
All right. I mean, I'll give you a few. Obviously, you got Paul Rudd really going all in on the comedy. I think it's here. He's a weatherman. He's not on the scene reporter like Brian Fantana and Anchorman, but I'm sure a lot of people will bring that up.
Yeah.
So, from the kind of buddies who keep screwing each other over, my favorite movie maybe of 2020 or so that I don't think anyone's seen, it's a movie called The Climb. Have you seen The Climb?
No.
The Climb is awesome. It's like done in 3 parts, and it's about these 2 friends who go on like this amazing bike riding journey, and then everything gets effed up between them. That movie is incredible. Really love that movie. So I would recommend that right there as a third one. And do you need more? Or what do you want?
I think you got some good stuff in there. I mean, first of all, Anchorman, it is great to see Paul Rudd back, not only as a person on the news, but also in something that's actually funny for a change.
I needed it.
It's been so long. And
he's so good at comedy.
He's so damn good and so funny and so likable. And you can totally see how this Tim Robinson character wants to be friends with him because he's Paul freaking Rudd, you know? He's just so damn likable. And then the reveal with the hair and all, like, there's just so much fun stuff with him. So, yeah, I think Anchorman is definitely one for this conversation. And The Climb, I had not even heard of. I'm going to have to look that movie up.
You should watch it. That movie's incredible. And it's dark and strange and odd. And I really like that. Paul Rudd, you know, we always talk about our love for Wet Hot American Summer, and this is almost a darker version of that in regards to the style of comedy where they give you left turns all the time. But I love movies like that where they're just going to keep surprising you with everything.
Yeah, I could have seen a version of Anthony DeYoung, I believe is the director's name, where David Wayne could have directed this. Like, it's definitely got that absurdist tone, and I'm sure David Wayne's just entire style in general is probably a big influence on this.
Do you kiss your mom on the mouth?
When that first happened, it's not even the kissing on the mouth. It's the reaction from Tim Robinson. When that happened, I was 1,000% in on this movie. I was like, oh my God.
But it's something they never come back to and never bring up again. And you could be like, okay, well, it's his mom, and when it happens to her, you could see why it affects him. But like, it's I like that they did all of those things. Dave, you told me you were crying at this movie.
Yeah, I absolutely was. That's when it all started, and it kind of just didn't stop from that point forward. The drug trip scene and
it's great.
Everything with that cell phone guy and everything with Paul Rudd's other friends and just how much of an asshole Tim Robinson makes of himself. I mean, there's so many funny parts in this. Crying the whole time.
As you know, I'm a big fan of The Rescue Mission. So, but just in general, nice 90 minutes, just joke, very funny, very awkward. Fun support. I mean, the wife was great. I love Connor O'Malley. His little speech is fantastic.
Oh God, that guy is so funny.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, I'm going to throw out one other thing because this is akin to, I think you should leave it's still on Netflix. There's, I think, 6 episodes. Ed Helms produced it. It's this Australian comedy troupe called Auntie Donna. Auntie Donna's Big Old House of Fun. And they really get that kind of balls to the wall, anything goes humor, and they're really good with callbacks on it. Like, you'll watch episode 4 and you'll be like, how did you call that back from episode 1? So Just wanted to throw that out as a recommendation.
All right, cool. Yeah, an extra little one right there, but sounds great. This was fun. Jason, tell people where they can find you and everything you're up to.
Jason Harris Comedy, Jay Harris Comedy, Eat This Comedy. The website has all the stuff, and I'm running a bunch of trivia nights around town, which are, look, these are perfect events to bring your friends out to. Friendship at my events.
Oh, that could be good. That could be good. If I had friends, I would do that.
You still have a free chips and dip waiting for you when you're ready.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen soon. Q's here. Hey!
Look at that.
Q is here.
Look at what that boy did.
Q is here to talk friendship.
Look at what that boy did.
I couldn't do this episode without you because I wouldn't know anything about Tim Robinson if it wasn't for you, Q.
That's true. I did expose you to Tim Robinson.
Yeah. So I'm happy to have you here. And I'm happy you actually went out to the theater to see this. You don't go to the movies as much as, a lot of my cohorts, my buddies, all my people out there. But I'm glad you made it out to like a 10 a.m. showing or something.
I torrented this. I'm sorry.
You son of a bitch. I hate you.
Interview over.
Delete. Yeah. Did this meet some expectations for you as a Tim Robinson fan?
Oh yeah, met and exceeded. This was a
Yeah.
great movie. I loved the hell out of this movie. What's the critical consensus? Are people enjoying this?
Yeah.
Did it do well? Did it do financially?
It's doing
well?
really well. I don't have numbers in front of me, but I know that it is definitely a success for A24, and it's a risk.
I had my housekeeper was here. My wife and my daughter were out like doing something on a Saturday. I needed to kind of like get out of my office, to like just give my housekeeper a few hours to work, and it's just like an hour and a half. It was a short, perfect movie. I just ran out to the theater like right down the street, and I went for an 11 a.m. matinee, and there were like whatever. It was like a normal sized theater, and it was like maybe like 2/3 full. Which
Nice.
and that was on a Saturday morning, so I guess not technically matinee, but like still that
Yeah.
I was like and this is a theater that doesn't really like, it's in a dead mall, so it doesn't really get a whole lot of like traffic usually. Like even opening night stuff doesn't fill up there.
Yeah.
So like I was pretty surprised, and I was texting with you during the movie, and I was like, "Look at this,"
Which is frowned upon, but I was happy just because we should have went and seen it together. But you're in Miami, so we couldn't.
One of these days, you and I have to have a conversation about the proposal coming out of that that what do they call that, CinemaCon, where these guys meet in Vegas, and the big proposal they have is to create second screen experiences during the movies. Like, what I've been meaning to ask you about that. But
I
whatever.
hope those comets hit before that happens. But
I was sitting in the back row. Okay, I'm one of the most like conscientious and polite moviegoers that there is. I was in the back row texting you with my brightness turned down, so I was not interrupting anyone's experiences. But I was texting you. I was like, "Look at this! It's a bunch of like one seat apart from each other, single men.
Yeah.
It was like single grown men.
Yeah, that's what my screening was like too.
And me, also a single grown man.
Yeah.
So
Amazing.
yeah, it was. I really loved the movie though.
Yeah.
I thought it was great.
And I want to say, like, to the point of this being a success, it's a success for a surrealist weirdo comedy based on some random Netflix sketch comedy thing. Like, that is not the kind of movie that does very well lately.
No,
and
it's not a book. It's not IP.
yeah.
It's not comic books. Nothing.
Very strange. And to the point of the surrealism of this whole thing, I mostly I'm having my guests provide the puzzle pieces here, but I do want to, because I've got you on, to mention, and this kind of goes back to I Think You Should Leave as well, but especially in this movie, I was reminded so much of David Wayne's stuff, whether it is Stella or even like Wayne Days or all those things.
I steered clear of all David Wayne and state associated stuff in my puzzle pieces because I just assumed other people would hit role models or like role models. I'm sure somebody has said role models by now, right?
Not yet, surprisingly, but it definitely fits.
Okay.
Everything David Wayne fits
all
so
of it,
well.
yeah. Wanderlust, all of it.
And all of that are big flops. Every last one of those movies and
hilarious
shows. Yeah. So
yeah.
Tim Robinson has figured it out, I guess. I don't know. But with that said, what do you have?
Okay. So I'm going to start off piece number one with this movie that well, first of all, you blindsided me. You asked me to do this just a few minutes ago.
Yes.
And so I'm gonna I'm going to turnabout is fair play. So I have 4 puzzle pieces. 2 of them are going to be TV shows. Sorry, fucking deal with it. So this movie explored one of my favorite topics, and you and I have talked about this all the time in the past. And one of my favorite topics when it's done well is the portrayal of male intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
And I cannot let this opportunity go by without once again mentioning, and you and I have talked about this on other podcasts in the past for years, Stephen Conrad's Patriot, which was one of Amazon Prime's first streaming shows. It's still in their library. One of the first shows that they ever commissioned. It came out in 2015, and then they had a second season that came out a couple years later, but eventually got canceled, like all streaming shows do, before they have to pay anybody.
Yeah.
So we've talked about this show to death in other podcasts, but if you're a listener that hasn't heard us talk about Patriot, there might not be any theme or topic that I like more when it is well done than the genre of guys being dudes.
Sure.
And I hate it also. There's nothing worse than when shows get it wrong or movies get it wrong. I'm reminded of a truly awful television show that's on the air right now called Friends and Neighbors with John Hamm.
I'm watching it right now, and it's so bad.
One of the worst shows I've ever seen in my life. I hate it, and I hate that. That's a pretty banal take. Here's my hot take. Another thing that I hate in the genre of guys being dudes that is poorly done: The Hangover. I hate whenever it's just like getting fucked up and getting pussy and being crazy is what guys are.
Yeah.
I hate that. It's so reductive. It's so dismissive. It's stupid. In Patriot, you have at Michael Dorman, who he's kind of like one of those that guys where you see him and you're like, oh yeah, that guy. And he plays CIA agent John Tavner, who goes undercover with the support of like a rogues gallery of these dipshits, including his brother, who's played by Michael Chernus, who's another great that guy. Who, if you look him up, he's one of those guys, Dave. If you look up Michael Chernus, you'll know who he is, and you'll be like, oh, I love that guy.
Yeah, sure.
Chris Conrad is his co-worker, Dennis, who's sort of like forced to cover for him. His father's played by Terry O'Quinn. Just a whole group of guys that all kind of become embroiled in Tavner's mission, and they go from being strangers to be or estranged or like strained relationships to truly being each other's team and having each other's back, and like through their own weirdness and their own absurd sort of character traits, they kind of click together like puzzle pieces. Hey. And they have these like profound moments of sharing, these profound moments of like recognizing and understanding each other's nature, even though I think of the way that Paul Rudd in certain scenes kind of looks at Tim Robinson's character, and like when Tim Robinson has done some absurd or crazy thing, there's like a recognition. He's like, yeah, you're crazy, but you're my crazy guy. I like you for how crazy you are. Yeah. I love that. That's great. Also, Patriot nails the tone with respect to the absurd nature and the absurd portrayal of everything in friendship, the pacing, the jokes, the sort of unexpected way that the characters interact with each other, the way that you're never quite sure what anybody's going to say next.
100%. Yeah.
But then as soon as they say it, you're like, of course, that's exactly what that character would say. It even feels like when it starts to feel like kind of fringy, and it kind of it gets like weird, and you think it's about to take a weird like left field turn, and then it just ends up doing something that stays sort of true to the characters. And the other thing that it has is a very unique and immediately identifiable type of guys, and guys that we all know. And it's like you can't explain these types of guys to people, but we all know these types of guys. You do know these guys. So that's puzzle piece number one is Patriot.
And I know you've talked about that show and it's how it approaches that topic a lot to me in the past. And I haven't seen the show, but I know you speak really highly of it. But what do you got next?
Okay, as long as we're talking about fellas, we're talking about the guys and how we deal with like this mundane passage of the chapters of our lives, how we seek meaning in relationships as we age. And again, that power of having other men be there for you, who can ride for you, who will help you, and who understand you and ensure you, and they won't let you fall down a toxic rabbit hole of like incel shit. If we're talking about that, Dave, the only other piece of media that we can talk about is a little show from Canada called Shoresy. Oh, yeah. There is nothing like Shoresy.
Another show that Q has turned me on to.
Yes. Yeah, I never got to really ask you, like with the passage of time, did you? Because we just watched that together a couple months ago. Did you like it? Did you really enjoy it?
I loved it, and it's so outside of my usual kind of wheelhouse, being a sports thing, basically. But like the relationships and the characters, they're all just so memorable and unique and just weird. And I think we talked about this while we were watching it. It feels like something. If Kevin Smith didn't get shitty, it's something he would make now.
If Kevin Smith gave a shit about directing and like really, and wasn't just trying to squeeze as many words. I told you the other day, I was rewatching Mallrats and I was like, were they paying him by the word in the dialogue? Like, what the fuck? Like if it was, but yes, it's like a Kevin Smith, like a more mature Kevin Smith. I don't know. It's the brainchild of Jared Kiso, who created all the characters, created the stories, and stars as the titular character, Shoresy, who is an aging minor league hockey player in Sudbury, Ontario, who's trying to keep his friend and boss's hockey club in business. That's the premise. That's it. And from there, they build all these, right now they're 4 seasons in. Season 1 is about grappling with your loss of your role and what you think you were supposed to be within your team or your organization. Season 2 is about loss of dominance and loss of competence, and where you like maybe you're not as great as you thought you used to be. Season 3 is about a loss of purpose, where we see this aging hockey player have to confront the idea that like it's not safe for him to play hockey anymore, and what comes next in his life. And then season 4 is about like the search for this next chapter. And again, this is like a portrayal of male intimacy, functional, healthy male relationships. They're not always pretty. They aren't really enjoyable for people to look at from the outside, and they get labeled things like toxic, but they are absolutely not. They are necessary for men to thrive. We are pack animals, and we need that. We need that to be able to age gracefully. It might seem really funny from the outside. Sometimes it's cringy, it's awkward, just like friendship. But they're all cringy, awkward, whatever. That's all profoundly human condition.
Yeah, it's real.
And I have a hot take about this too. And I'll lump friendship in here with this. If all men were like Shorzy, or were like Paul Rudd's character, or were like, in some respects, by the time he has had his sort of awakening, Tim Robinson's character at the end of this movie, or the guys from Shorzy, Dolo, Hitchcock, Goody, all these guys. If we all had groups like that and healthy friends who we connect with, I think there, like, almost all problems in the world would be solved. There would be no war, there would be no violence, there would be no domestic violence, there would be no abuse of women or children, there'd be no reactionary politics, there'd be no alt-right shit, there'd be no incel cultures, dying communities, dying middle class. I could, if you gave me a second, if you gave me time, present me with any of society's ills, and I could tell you, I could tell you exactly how those kind of friendships and that kind of community, if it existed for all guys, could put an end to it.
Healthy happiness, it goes a long way to making people not turn into pieces of shit, basically.
Absolute pieces of shit.
Yeah, except for Tim Robinson, who, I mean, I think he's doomed to be that in this movie, no matter what.
Well, the one thing
even with his little glimmer of an idea of,
But I did think that it was, at least, because what we a lot of us interact with Tim Robinson either through I Think You Should Leave or Detroiters, right, which was his other semi-popular media before he became this big deal. And like, those shows are so sketchy, like sketch-like, I mean, and absurdist, that like we don't get, there's not like a character arc, really. Like in an episode of Detroiters, it's just like crazy shit happens.
It's not about anything.
It's not about anything. Yeah. And I think we come close to seeing that, that Tim Robinson character have some sort of, I don't know if you want to call it an awakening. That might be a little, I don't know, pretentious, but like he has some realization that, hey, this is where I'm at in life, and maybe going forward, I can make it a little bit better. Maybe I haven't done a great job so far.
Just picturing what he tries next is I'll watch it. I'll watch that. What else do you got?
Okay, so now I'm back in your world. I'm going to give you some cinema. All right.
Oh boy.
And these are both, I have two picks, and they're both criminally underrated. They are both pretty lowly rated movies, but they are both like I would call them like they're in the dorm room collection. Like they were in every dorm room.
Sure.
No, piece number 3 for me is the criminally underrated Very Bad Things from 1998. Starring Christian Slater, Cameron Diaz, Jon Favreau, Daniel Stern, Jeremy Piven, Jeannie Triplehorn. This one had a stacked cast.
Oh, hell yeah.
This movie was incredibly stacked. It was directed by Peter Berg. And this is about, it's about a bachelor party trip that goes wrong in Las Vegas. Where's sound familiar?
Mm-hmm.
But more than that, because that's only just one part of it. That's just the first act is the bachelor party, unlike The Hangover. And then the consequences of what happened on the bachelor's party trip end up being like, they set the stage for several characters, several men, but their lives slowly falling apart, their marriages falling apart, their families disintegrating. This is much more broad. It's less nuanced. It's like, this is Cameron Diaz, like on the heels of Something About Mary. So it's like sex and jizz and fart humor. Like it's late 90s, Farrelly Brothers influenced type shit.
Sure.
Right. In that era. But it's also a comedy of manners in many ways, where like a lot of the humor in friendship is about like, wait, why did he just say that in that situation? It's the same thing with this. Like some of the characters are very like square pegs and round holes. Like the Christian Slater character is a psychopath, and like whenever he speaks, it's like what the fuck? Why did he say that?
They're
So it is
constantly doing the worst possible thing.
yes, and that is. Do you remember that movie at all? You and I did not see that movie.
I definitely saw it back when it came out, but I don't really remember it very well. It is crazy though, and this is something that's come up through a lot of these conversations, is that we used to get so many mainstream studio comedies, and it's just not a thing anymore. So the fact that we got to see this in a movie theater is shocking enough that it wasn't just like a Netflix drop and
straight to video.
Yeah, just everybody forgets about it a week later. So but yeah, movies like Very Bad Things, even the ones that are bad, they stick with us because they were actual movies that came out in movie theaters. And I mean, it was a huge flop. I actually just brought it up. It made $20 million off of a $30 million budget. That's horrendous, but we all remember Very Bad Things.
And that's funny because that was at most maybe a $15 million movie, but it had still incredibly hot and popular Christian Slater.
Mm-hmm.
It had smoking hot, like I'm talking like box office wise, smoking hot Cameron Diaz.
Yep.
It had, Jon Favreau, who had just, Swingers was huge.
Yeah, it just started blowing up at that point.
He had just started becoming Jon Favreau, and like, and he was I think he was the main character. It wasn't, even though Christian Slater got first billing, the main character was Jon Favreau. And like, so I'm sure they spent a lot of money on that, and they probably tried to do a lot of marketing. I mean, if I had that movie in the can as like a studio guy, and I saw what Something About Mary had done that summer, and I was like, fuck, man, I've got myself a little Something About Mary cooking, and it's going to release in November of this year, I would probably put a whole lot of marketing behind it. So they probably put themselves in the red.
Would you hire lots of commercials? Would you hire a bunch of influencers that talk into their phone cameras vertically on Instagram and then share that as your advertisement?
Yo, what's up, chat? I just got out of Very Bad Things. Yo, God, thank God we didn't have that, dude. Ugh.
Everything's awful. All right, one more. But
you're right. You're right though. You are right about the seeing it in the movie theater piece, because that's how I remember it. I remember specifically the date that I was on.
Yeah,
I took a girl there, and like, I was like a teenager, and it
was a movie that mattered, even if it wasn't very good. It mattered.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Last piece. What do you got?
Last piece, again, from the dorm room DVD collection, another mainstay, 1997's Suicide Kings, directed by Peter O'Fallon, starring Christopher Walken, Dennis Leary, and Sean Patrick Flannery. Another dorm room classic. Now, if you're listening to this, you might not remember this movie's name or title, but you have definitely seen clips, because this is a very, very popular clipped movie where it's similar to Boiler Room, where there are a bunch of like what do you call it, like monologues that characters give that get clipped, specifically Christopher Walken or Dennis Leary. There are several very popular clips that people have pulled from this movie and put on TikTok and Reels and stuff like that. So this movie is obviously about not obviously, because I don't think a lot of people actually saw this one, Dave.
Yeah, I kind of remember this movie, but not just barely.
So the two main characters, one of them's there's a woman that we don't see until the very end of the movie. The woman is a sister and I think fiance or boyfriend, or girlfriend, I should say, to two characters, right? So they get to, and she's kidnapped, held for ransom, unclear exactly by who or what or like how it happened, but like basically they have to come up with this ransom. These are all like rich, upper crust, very, very wealthy kids, but they don't actually have their own money. They're like young college age, like 18, 19, 20-year-olds. So they kidnap this mob boss, Christopher Walken, and try to hold him for ransom at one of their friends, the DJ. Remember DJ from Roseanne, that boy?
Okay. Yeah.
At his house, they keep Christopher Walken, and for most of this movie, Christopher Walken is tied to a chair and just kind of.
This is the movie that I feel like me and everyone else confuses with Swimming with Sharks.
I can see how that could easily happen. Yeah.
And the ref, actually.
And the ref. Oh yeah, because of the Dennis Leary of it all. Yeah. So yeah, and things start to disintegrate and fall apart, and a lot of the ways that these characters meet that failure is similar to the ways that we see our characters in friendship, as their lives are disintegrating and falling apart around them, meet their foibles. And again, this is like something that you had playing in the background of your buddy had it playing in the background of the dorm room. And it was contained to a single night, but it does a great job of like sort of documenting these people's bad choices and how their lives start to fray and fall apart. It starts with this bad idea, just like kind of it does with Tim Robinson deciding to jump that fence, and so yeah. If you haven't watched it, it's a good movie. I think it still stands up. I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot of like off color stuff, but whatever. We're talking about this kind of comedy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have to revisit that one of these days. I want to throw one at you because you're talking about these like dorm room classics, and I kept thinking of Freddy Got Fingered with this movie. I mean, I think as far as a character who is just so absurd and so like there's no telling what the hell is going to happen from one scene to the next scene or even within the scene, and just let's throw the most strange things we could possibly think of. I think even though this movie does have much more of a through line than like say a sketch show like I Think You Should Leave,
Right.
It is just so crazy that this is like actually a movie and that it actually came together like this. We talked about the scene with the police dog getting pushed up into that tunnel. Like that's one of those images that you're like, how is this in a movie?
I was dying because it was an immediate cut. It went from their living room to they were inside the tunnel shoving the dog awkwardly, and the dog did that thing where when a dog like curls its body because it's not really sure what it's supposed to be doing. It's like being held in air. It like curls its body. And you're talking about like a big German Shepherd. That was a hilarious scene. I would say like the only thing about that though is like with Freddy Got Fingered, that the main character, not Freddy, Gord,
Gord,
Gord, is that his character was like an alien that was dropped in the planet, and so his unpredictability was from a very alien place, whereas Tim Robinson's character was this very familiar, like he said things that were so ridiculous, but they felt very familiar. Like, I want to go see the new Marvel. I heard it's nuts. That's something like a guy would say, and like
the one friend that you really don't want to like actually see, but you're still friends with him for some reason. That guy.
Right. And at one point you kind of look and you're like, why the hell were we friends with him for so long? Like, what was that all about? And so like, I think that Tim Robinson's comedy and his humor is strong because we live now in less of an absurdist time and more of like a referential time. So if you can have fun making fun originally, if you can like make fun of or parody a guy that says he wants to go see the new Marvel because it's nuts, like that will land more than like Daddy, Can I Have Some Sausages? Like Daddy, Can I Have Some Sausages? I think people will watch that today and be like that's just weird. And like I think people are kind of like done with weird, like overtly like that kind of weird where it's sausages hanging from a ceiling weird. They want something that is like what you were saying before, like more David Wayne-ish, where it's like where like I'll never forget when David Wayne started his blog in like 2001, and he was like, I'm gonna just use this blog as a place to share interesting things that I found on the internet. Here's one, and it was a link, and you clicked on it. It was to Amazon. It was just Amazon.com.
I also think, speaking of David Wayne, actually, his newest project, he's finally making another movie, but his newest project is Middle-Aged Dad Jam Band, where he's literally just touring with some of his comedy friends, just playing music.
Yeah, with like Joe Latrulio and a bunch of those guys.
That's exactly like Paul Rudd and his buddies and his rock band and like all this stuff. Like it is exactly that kind of like those guys who are just kind of they're together having a good time.
The humor that you and I had and really appreciated, kind of when we were like that age in like the 90s and the early 2000s and whatever, was very off the wall and very absurd and like, what? Oh my God. Whereas now I think the best stuff being done is stuff that pulls references from actual life, not crazy shit, but like templates of people and having fun with those templates of like,
Yeah.
you know, the kind of guy that does this, you know, that kind of shit.
Yeah.
So,
It makes sense
but
too with social media.
that's why I think
you know.
David Wayne's a great pick. Like all the David Wayne stuff.
Yeah.
Like the fact that it's like, even like the way that he'll take, like, I mean, this is a genre send up, right? This is like making fun of an A24 Ari Aster movie.
It kind of is, yeah. Some of the score choices and like some of the cinematography and all that. I think it's definitely also being a send up of those kinds of things.
To me, I see that, and I think of David Wayne doing a send up of Nora Ephron movies with They Came Together. Like it was like same thing. They're doing the same project.
Yeah.
Like it's very similar.
Well, I think we got into a lot of good stuff here, Q. Where can people find you and your podcast and everything you're up to?
My podcast is called Why Are We Like This? It's a podcast about life in Florida. And we treat Florida like the active crime scene it is. So check us out at WAWLT, Walt.com. That's Walt.com.
What's his name? Jimp? Jim.
You say your name's Jimp?
Like jump with an eye.
Like jump with an eye.
All right, so I hope you enjoyed that conversation about friendship. Thank you so much to Marco Arriaga, Dayvid Figler, Amanda Guarragi, Jason Harris, and David Quinones for joining me on that one. I wanted to do a live show on this movie so bad, but it just didn't work out. It would have been such a fun time, but I'm really glad we were able to do this super episode, so I still got a bunch of different voices on the show. Thank you to all of them for joining me. Thank you to all of you for listening. If you thought of any puzzle pieces for friendship that we didn't bring up, I still have some more myself, actually. But we'll see if any of you send in anything that I had on my little list over here. But send them in. I'd love to hear your puzzle pieces. Of course, I'd also love to get you on a show sometime. So, do get in touch. But if you send in your puzzle pieces, I will read them on the next Trailers episode. And I'd love to hear from you. You can follow me on social media at PiecingPod. Join the Facebook group Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces, where all of my friends hang out talking about movies. And you could also, of course, check out our Produced by David Rosen Patreon, where I post bonus and advanced content from Piecing It Together, Awesome Movie Year, and from my music career. Lots of great stuff at patreon.com/bydavidrosen. You're supporting the show just by listening, but if you want to support the show in that way, it's very much appreciated as well. And it's time to close this out with a piece of music like I always do. And how could I go with anything except for a song from my best friends, the Pup Pups, my comedy rock group with my pets, which just released our 4th album, and we're almost done with the 5th album. And I'm going to play a song from that, because if you're listening this far into the episode, you're my friend, and you deserve a little preview of the next Pup Pups album. So this is a duet with my dog, Harvey. The whole album is a Harvey-centric album. All the songs are either sung by Harvey or sung by me to Harvey or about him. This one happens to be a duet. So this is called Bonded Pair, and it will be on the next Pup Pups album, which will come out this year at some point. That's right, 2 albums in 1 year, which I did last year also, which is just insane. But anyway, 2 Pup Pups albums. So this is Bonded Pair. You're the first people to hear this because you're my friends. Let's go with it, and we'll be back with more Piecing It Together real soon.
I love him and he loves me, and we're a happy family, and you know we're a bonded pair. We look alike, but he has got a little bit more hair, and we sit around in our underwear. We both love sleeping, both love naps, we both love eating, both love snacks, and you know we're a bonded pair. I do whatever he is doing. If I'm with him, the fun's a brewing agenda. I don't even care. A bonded pair, a bonded pair. Oh, well, you know we really love you, but you can't have one without the other. 'Cause me and him, well, we're a bonded pair. 'Cause I'm with him and he's with me, and mister, that is all I need. 'Cause you know we're a bonded pair. We'd be napping on the couch or chasing him around the house, more funner than a county fair. We sing some songs and watch a movie. Every day is just so groovy when you're in a bonded pair. You can't have him if you don't take me, 'cause we're a little family. You can't have me if you don't take him, but take us both and the fun begins. A bonded pair, a bonded pair. Oh well, you know we really love you, but you can't have one without the other, 'cause me and him, well, we're a bonded pair. A bonded pair, a bonded pair. Oh well, you know we really love you, but you can't have one without the other, 'cause me and him, well, we're a bonded pair. A bonded pair, a bonded pair. Oh well, you know we really love you, but you can't have one without the other, 'cause me and him, well, we're a bonded pair.
An All Points West production, produced by David Rosen in Las Vegas.